My name is Tyler from maxxdesign.com. Some of the things that you'll learn today is where you can pick up the material that you need to make a countertop, and some of the explanations will be able to show you step by step on how to do an undermount sink. So we can get started by taking a look at how to do an undermount sink. There's all kinds of different styles of undermount sinks. You can go down to the local Home Depot or the Ace Building Center in your local area and probably buy an undermount sink. Some things that you need to just keep in mind, that an undermount sink will first of all say undermount sink, so don't be confused by anything else. As you open the box, you will want to find the template. And let me show you the template here. So here's the template. This makes cutting the hole, or actually you're not cutting the hole, you're forming the hole in this countertop. And usually these templates, just for your own information, have two cutouts. They have the undermount cutout and they have the drop-in cutout. So always go to the one that says undermount. You don't want to make a form the size of the drop-in because it just won't work. Then what you're going to do is you're going to laminate, like hopefully you can see this on the video, you're going to laminate two pieces of 3/4 inch melamine. Remember, we use melamine. On our last video we explained this, so we explained that the edges here are melamine, they're 3/4 inch, and they're melamine's on the bottom. This allows the concrete to come off smoothly, and it keeps the surface of the concrete, because remember, we build these things upside down, so the finished side will be against this nice smooth finish. So that's what you want. We're going to laminate two sheets of 3/4 inch melamine together, and that will give you basically a block here that is exactly 1.5 inches, which is exactly the width of your forms. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take this template that you've cut out here, this solid black line for the undermount sink. You're going to place it on that square block that you've laminated together now, which is 1.5 inches thick, and you are going to trace that template onto this block of wood. What you're going to do next is just take one of your saws, a jigsaw or something, and you're going to go along that line very nicely on that laminated piece of melamine, those two laminated pieces of melamine. And then, because the saws usually leave some saw marks and so forth, you're going to have to get a belt sander or a palm sander, and you're going to have to sand those edges smooth. If you don't sand the edges smooth, every mark that you have there on the outside of your template when you cut it out will be showing on the concrete, because the concrete will form to whatever that form is that you have there. So very crucial, take your time. If you make a mistake with your saw, throw that piece away. There's no sense in using something that's not going to look good in the end. Then, important, take your template back again and check it against your form. You want to make sure that that form matches the template. We've talked about sanding, right? But we need a smooth finish put along the edge here so that the concrete doesn't go into the sides of this laminated melamine and expand it. So what you're going to use is you're going to use packing tape or tuck tape or something that's very, very smooth, has a plastic finish, and that's going to make it as well a lot easier to get this form out of the concrete. Sort of on a technical side, I'll just grab my tape measure here. Thank you, Vanna. And so the other thing is that on the front edge, that's the side that you're going to be standing on using the sink, we typically go about 4 inches in to the front of the sink. And then on the back side, it's a little bit wider, which gives us a little bit more strength on the back side. In this form, it's 6 1/4, but it can range anywhere, depending on your cabinets and so forth, from 5. It depends a lot on the width of your sink as well. So this is going to be the wider end. And why is that? Because you're going to have to put your tap hole in here. So don't forget that. So this is where your tap hole is. So you need a little bit more room back here. So go 4 inches up in the front, and then whatever's remainder in the back. So standard 1 1/4 hole. You can grab some ABS pipe or something that is 1.5 on the outside, not the inside, the outside measurement, and you can place that in there and screw it into there wherever that tap is going to be and form around the cement and everything around that. Or at the end of the project, you can take a diamond grinder with a hole bit and drill your 1.25 hole, whatever you prefer. The biggest thing with concrete is that you don't want it to crack. And this is possible. You can build a countertop that won't crack. We use reinforcement, and I'm going to show you actually 2 pieces of reinforcement that we use. You might say, wow, that's not very good reinforcement, it wobbles all over. But it actually is very, very strong. It's glass reinforcement. So this is made out of glass. You can see the difference here in the red one, very small squares. And then this is a different type, it's white, but it has different strands going through it, which are very, very strong, which are thicker than the red stuff, with bigger holes to allow the concrete to actually flow through this a lot nicer and get wrapped right around it. And what happens is we pour, and you'll want to do this as well at home, you want to pour about 1/2 inch to 3/8 of an inch of concrete on the face. And that's what you're going to actually be using for the face of your countertop. That's going to be the face of the countertop. And then what's going to happen is you're going to put this into that concrete. And you're going to make sure that it's nice and submerged into that, so that this layer of glass is actually very close to the surface of the countertop. And then you're going to fill it up with more concrete over top of that. And then what you're going to do at the very end is you're going to put this piece of mesh or scrim on the back all over the countertop. And so what actually you have here is you have the concrete being sandwiched in between these 2 pieces of glass. And if you can imagine this, how they would work in tandem with one another to give the concrete very good tensile strength to hold that together so that there is no cracking that occurs. Gives it tremendous, tremendous strength. So you will definitely want this kind of material. Now you can't, the problem is you can't find this down at Lowe's or Home Depot or Ace. So if you look at our website, go on to maxxdesign.com, and you'll be able to see that we have kits there that actually sell this scrim or this glass fiber so that you can put it in your own countertop. And you'll want to do it. It's light for shipping, and but it's worth its weight in gold. It's very valuable. Something else that we use in between these 2 meshes that fill up the majority of the countertop with concrete is we mix this particular glass fiber in with the concrete. The glass is very, very strong. It's very, very light. These pieces are about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, 3/4 of an inch long. And they're random. But when that goes into the concrete, this fiberglass, then you end up with something that's very, very strong. Metal. Now we talked about the undermount sink. When you form this undermount sink, that means that no concrete is actually going in this part of the pad. And if you look at this pad, we got about 200 pounds on this side and 200 pounds of concrete on that side in slabs, and we've taken out all of this strength. So where's it going to crack? It's obviously going to crack in the weakest spots, right here. If we start to move it down the road or we start taking it into the house or whatever, we need to have good strength right in these 2 ribbons of concrete. This is the weakest part of this whole pad. So how do we accomplish that? Well, we use the glass, of course. We use this glass, but we also use metal. And what this does is it acts as a bridge between these 2 bigger pieces of concrete. Notice that you see holes in here. So when you vibrate this into the concrete actually wraps itself right around inside of these holes, which gives a tremendous amount of strength. So you will be putting one of these in here and one of these in the front. Now you can't buy this probably down at Lowe's or Home Depot either. So feel free, as I mentioned before, to go onto our website and take a look at some of the kits that we have that provide all of these different things Another type of reinforcement that we use this metal, but we also use this metal. And this is something that you can probably get down at your local hardware store. It's called block lock. When you think about how big this particular piece is, it comes in different widths, and 6, 8, but this particular width here, shoulder to shoulder, is about 2.5 inches. So it's about 2.5 inches wide. And that's a nice size for the pads. You don't put it through here, but you do put it in to the longer slabs. And this will also provide strength in the countertop pad. So you need this. You can buy this down at your local hardware store. They should have it. It's made actually for a 4-inch block, but it is about 2.5 inches. Cut your reinforcement out before you actually start pouring. It'll save a lot of time. You won't be, because you'll have cement all over your hands and so forth. At least we find it easier. I'm sure you'll find it easier. If you have an unlevel form here, you're going to have an unlevel pad, and that leads to warping. That leads to one side being up in the air when you go to set it on level cabinets. So your cabinets are level. You need a level concrete slab or a level form here. And the time to do it is before you pour the concrete. So what we use here at Max X Design is we use this laser level. It simply mounts on the wall, and then you're able to go around all the corners, around the sink, check it. I'll show you how we do that. You just turn it on here, and I'll just get Vanna here to put it up on the wall where we usually stick it. So you can see on this wall how it circles basically, or it has a red line all the way around. So this is really, really handy. So what you're going to do is take a stick, and you're going to put a pencil mark here, and that means all the way around this pad you want that red line to be on that pencil mark that you just made there. And so you'll be putting it all over the pad, all the way around the edges, around the sink, everywhere. Sometimes you can stick a 1.5 inch piece even in the center if your pad is really wide, just to make sure the center isn't sagging in any way. And you're going to be able to come up and make this level. So usually you got to find the highest pot in your on your form, because maybe your floor goes up, and then level everything else up to that level. It's not as complicated as it seems. You can figure it out. So we're almost ready to pour the concrete. If you haven't looked at our first video, it would be in your best interest to take a look at the first video, because it explains all the basic fundamental things, particularly when it comes to the forming of the concrete, and all of the different little tricks that we use to get the forms nice and level and straight, and some of the other things. So, and the type of material that we use. We haven't talked about that in this particular video, but it's important. Watch the other video, and if you haven't already, and you will understand sort of how we made this form and what it's made out of and all the materials.